The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. Welcome to the show. We're going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about topics that have to do with autism and how we can be more effective working with a child on the autism spectrum to reach their fullest potential. All of our kids are different, right? And we know that. And we appreciate when somebody doesn't take a cookie cutter approach to our kids. We need to see them as individuals and we need to teach them as individuals. Their progress is going to be different. It's going to be at a different pace. They're all going to end up in different places because they're all starting in different places and they have different abilities and different deficits that we need to strengthen, different challenging behaviors that they have to overcome that we can help them to do. That's really what we talk about here. And a lot of what we talk about, of course, is ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis. There's a really good reason for that. It's the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. Now, what's particularly great about that is that we know that it is effective, and we know it's effective across the whole spectrum. And by effective, I mean that we are going to see progress, whether your child is very young, whether your child is 45. You can have progress using the tools of ABA if you use them in a creative, very specific way for the specific child. So what are these tools? How can we acquire them? How can we learn how to use them and learn how to apply them to our individual child? That's one of the big questions that we're always trying to answer here. I know I'm always trying to answer that, but it's not the only thing that we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about this entire journey as a family, as if you're a teacher, if you're a practitioner, if you are a teenager or an adult on the spectrum. How do we embrace this journey if possible? And I think for a lot of people they can. For some it's harder than others, right? Because it's different for all of us. But how can we move through this journey with grace and dignity and get through the difficult things, face what we have to face, and really reach the highest potential that we possibly can? That's what we're all about here. And it's an interactive show. So we ask for you to participate, to put your 2 cents in this pot here. Tell us the kinds of things that you want to talk about on this show, the kinds of things that make you absolutely furious and tear your ticket, the kinds of things that give you hope, the kinds of things that are working in your home, the kinds of things that aren't working in your home, what your biggest concern is, what is preventing you from getting to that progress so that we can find a way to move that to the side or to somehow get through it. I was thinking about that children's book, We're Going on a Bear Hunt, where they keep coming up against these obstacles and say, you know, we can't go over it, we can't go under it, we got to go through it. Okay. But they finally do, and they find the bear that they were looking for. Love that children's book. So that's what we talk about here, every single part of it, facing the financial end of this, facing the emotions of it, and getting down to the business of making progress happen, because we know that's possible. And if you don't know, if you haven't heard that progress is possible, I'm so glad you found us, because that's the one thing I know for sure, that progress is possible. How do I know this? Not because I'm an ABA expert, not because I have a degree in psychology, not because I am an expert in autism or finances or any of those things, but because I'm a mom and I saw this happen in my very own household. My son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. He is 9 now and he is doing wonderfully. He is luscious. I just adore the ground that he walks on. I'm a very proud mom, and I know that you can say this as well, but I have never in my life seen someone work as hard as he did. And he is my hero. We had a lot of help. a lot of help, and I'm grateful for that every day of my life. Every breath I take, I'm grateful for the help that we have had as a family, and that my child has had, and that I've had as a mom. And I want you to know that it's important to me that I be a conduit for you to get as much of that help as you possibly can, wherever you are in the world. The thing is that it's changed a lot in the last few years, right? Years ago, if you had a child with autism, what was available to you was very, very limited. Now it still isn't a level playing field, but we're getting there inch by inch, child by child. And I want to be the person that is on your team who can help you to get the answers that you want. So how can you participate? How can you tell me what you need? Lots of different ways. If you're watching us on autism-live.com, then you will see that there's a box there that says Shannon is answering right now. I have pushed the live button, which means it's active. You can type in there, hit enter, and it appears magically here on my screen. You can ask an expert a question. You can ask me a question. We can talk about whatever you want. If it says rebroadcast, you can see there's an email address there, and that's just one of the ways that you can get a hold of us. And by the way, that works no matter where you're watching us. We'll talk about other places you can watch us in a minute. But feel free to email us day or night, whatever time it is in your part of the world. Email us. We'll get back to you as soon as we can with a written response, and we'll talk about it on the live show. There's our phone number. You can also call us. We love to interact with you. You can be patched right into the studio, or you can speak to somebody outside the studio. If you call us after business hours, you can leave a message, and we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can. Hey, you can also Skype with us. We love to do Skype interviews, and you can Skype from anywhere in the world. If you've got a computer that has a camera, you can have your picture here talking right next to my head. We could be having a conversation with each other. So Skype away with us. We really enjoy the opportunity to talk to you in that way. But you can also interact with us on Facebook. We have a brand new Facebook page, Autism Live on Facebook. While you're there, check out some of the different articles that we have. Share something. Let us know if there's something that you want to share. If you want to be on the show, let us know your any topic that you want covered on the show. If you say, Shannon, I just don't see you talking enough about apraxia. Can you please do some shows about apraxia? I will get somebody in here who knows a lot more about apraxia than I do. That's how a lot of what happens here is because somebody spoke up and said, here's what I need. So you can do that on Facebook. You can also answer the question of the day there. And by the way, you can do all of these things on Twitter as well. We are Autism Live Show on Twitter. So there is our handle there. Participate with us in any of those ways. We really enjoy the interaction. And it really drives the content here. I want you to know that. I mentioned that there are other ways that you can be watching us besides autism-live.com. We have our own channel on blip.tv. You can check us out there. It's all free. You can find shorter segments. You can search topics, pause, rewind, fast forward. Really efficient way to watch. It's like having your own DVR. You can also do that on YouTube. We have our own channel there. And what I love about YouTube is that not only can you watch those clips that you've missed in the past and search those topics, but when you see something you like, you can share it, and we encourage you to do that. We also look forward to your comments and questions and suggestions, positive or negative, on YouTube, because we're in the process of learning. We don't feel like we've got this all figured out. We want to hear from you. If there's something we can do better, we want to know about it. And I tell you that from the bottom of my heart. Also, you can download us for free on iTunes. All free downloads, entire episodes, picture and sound on iTunes. We do have the audio only coming. I just feel like I don't want to talk about it anymore because I've been promising it forever, but it's coming. It's coming. We said that about autism insurance, and you know, it is coming. A lot of people have it. Not everybody yet, but it's coming. And you can also find us on Ustream. That's another way that you can watch us. If there's a way that you'd like to see us that you have not yet seen, and by the way, I'm not giving anything away, but there's some new ways coming up in the future for you to watch us as well that I think you're going to be excited about. But if there's some way that you would like to see us, please do us a favor and let us know via any of those media. We want to be available to you in the places that you need to be able to see us. Okay. Now, we start every morning with something that I fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. I think of this as like our morning warm-up. Ah, yes. I'm in the world of autism, and I've interacted with my child already, so I'm already there, but now I got to step into the world of jargon, this world of professionals, that they have words and phrases and anagrams that they say to us that mean absolutely nothing on day one of autism. And at some point, we have to make the decision to make friends with these terms so we know what in the hey nani nani they're talking about, right? That's important to me as a parent. Okay, today's term, it's one of those that I never ever had heard of before autism. It's NET. All right, we always give you an actual definition, and then we give you a somewhat watered down version that hopefully is more user-friendly. But let's take a look at what NET stands for. It's Natural Environment Training. And our actual definition is training and generalization of skills within the child's natural environment. Now, we talked about generalization. I can't remember whether it was yesterday or the day before. Generalization is when a child, we've taught something in a way that we can't possibly teach it in all different configurations, but the child is now starting to apply what they learn in new situations. That's generalization. So training and generalization of skills within the child's natural environment. Let's look for our watered down working definition, training and generalization of skills within the child's natural environment, because it pretty much is the same thing. Basically, the difference, and we'll talk about DTT tomorrow, but when we do something within the natural environment, we're really having it be child directed. So there are times when we'll do lessons where we're really driving the bus and saying, you and I are going to sit at this table and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, right? And that's a really contrived way to teach. It works. It works, especially when we're introducing a new skill, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow. But we always need to be doing NET, natural environment training too, because if I want to teach you, I'm trying to think of a skill that would apply to an adult. Well, if I want to teach you to cook, and I want to teach you to make hollandaise sauce, and I have no idea how to make hollandaise sauce. I just know that it has raw eggs in it. That's all I know about. But if I did know about teaching you about making hollandaise sauce, and I sat there and I showed you step by step on cards, and I had you practicing at a table all the different things that you would need to do to make hollandaise sauce, and I might even take you into my kitchen to make hollandaise sauce. If I don't give you the opportunity to make hollandaise sauce in a real kitchen, in your kitchen, I really didn't seal the deal, did I? And to further that, when we work towards generalization, I would probably want to take you to a couple of different places to teach you how to make hollandaise sauce, so that when you go to your in-laws and you're there with your mother-in-law's kitchen and things are set up differently, that you still can make hollandaise sauce and have it come out as good as it did when I was standing over you and helping you to do it in my kitchen. So we really need to seal the deal with our children, which means we're going to start to teach things in a very contrived environment, but at some point we have to take these things out into the community. We have to give these lessons legs, right? So when we teach a child how to, let's say we're teaching greetings and salutations, and we're going to teach them, when I say this, you say hi, or when I come in the door, you say hi, right? And we're going to set it up and give them lots of opportunities to do it. But it really isn't a skill that the child possesses until we've taken it out, we've gone down to Walmart, and we've gone to Target, and we went to Kmart, and somebody said hi to the child, and they said hi back. Now, are we going to be able to teach the child in absolutely every single environment? No, but we're going to teach it in several different environments so that we get to generalization. But we have to make sure that it's within their regular life, right? We're setting up all these circumstances, but how about taking them to the park where they want to go? It's really driven by them. And we sneak these little lessons in. I really think as a parent, you know, it depends on how you're approaching autism. If you have a team or whether you're the team, you and your family. But I will tell you that the DTT, the discrete trial teaching in our house, was done primarily by the therapist. They also did NET with my child, natural environment training. And as a parent, I find that I have more opportunities and more skill personally with the NET stuff. When somebody has started the lesson for me and then I take it and plug it into the world. It's so important that our children have an opportunity to plug these skills into their world and have an opportunity. So I can be playing trains with a 3-year-old child and somebody comes in the door and now it's the opportunity. They're playing trains, somebody's there in the door, and I can say, hey, what do you say to the person who comes in the door? And they turn and look and say, hi, great. Maybe the next time I don't have to prompt it. But we're focusing on doing the kinds of things that the child wants to do and plug in what they've learned into that. Natural environment training, it's essential, absolutely essential to getting the kind of progress that we want to see. So important. Okay, we always have a question of the day for you. The question of the day meant to get you thinking and participating. All this week we've been asking about how your children acquire skills and what kinds of skills your child has acquired. So today's question, what skills do you like to work on with your child using natural environment training? And it should be pretty much everything that you're working on. At some point you should be working on natural environment training, but what in particular, I love being in the car. I've talked about this before. I love being in the car with my child, and whatever it is that we're working on, that's what we work on in the time in the car. Every Sunday morning, my son and I drive to the farmer's market that's across town, and it's a little bit of a jog, and I'm not all the way awake. He's not all the way awake, but he's there strapped in with a seatbelt. But years ago, he was strapped into the 5-point harness, and if we left the house 5 years ago, maybe we were working on colors. And so I would have him look up at the different stoplights and say, what color is the stoplight? Oh, it's green. What does green mean in a stoplight? Oh, it means go. Okay. And we would have this whole conversation about it. Now we talk about social skill things and practice phone etiquette sometimes that will, you know, he has the phone in the back seat and he'll put it on speaker and he'll call grandma or he'll call a friend. I'm in the front seat so I can prompt. I'm not on the phone. He's on the phone. But then afterwards we can talk about it and say, oh, you know, we'll remember to say this because they don't know who you are. They can't see you on the phone, right? So I'm always trying to squish things into the natural environment. But again, you know, if we were working on phone etiquette, I could do it with the phone at home with it not turned on, right? But and that's not a bad way to work on it to practice, but eventually he's got to be on the phone with a real kid because I can't predict what the kid's going to say. I've learned this. So what do you like to work on natural environment with your child, and really where do you like to work on it? You can answer this on Facebook. We're going to check in a little bit later on today and see what kinds of things you guys have said. Hey, we always have a topic of the day, and our topic today and all this week has been maintaining progress. We've talked a little bit about how do we get progress, but once we get progress, we have to know like the way in which to make sure that it stays. I always say that my child was like a whiteboard. You know, those erase whiteboards, we could teach him something one day and then the next morning we get up and clean slate. Somebody came and wiped the board clean. Over time, we learned how to get things to stick so that he became a Velcro board instead. And I still have to be reminded on a regular basis that there are certain things I have to do to make sure that he doesn't have skills degrade or go away. We don't want to have that. We don't want to work for progress and then let it fade. We got to maintain it. So we'll be talking about that all this week. We have a lot of experts that have come in and that are coming in this week, and we're going to ask them for their personal take on maintaining progress. By the way, you can always interact with those experts by phoning in, writing in, emailing in, whatever flips your switch. Okay, to that end, some of the different things that we're going to be talking about today. Compliance. You know that compliance is one of my favorite things to talk about. It's one of our Thursday topics because it's the best of times and the worst of times, depending on whether you have compliance or you don't, right? So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. We have a myth of the day today, and it's Thursday, so we're going to be joined by BCBA, Board Certified Behavior Analyst Angela Persicke. She's going to be talking about a wide variety of topics. We're going to ask her about maintaining progress, of course, and we'll also be taking your questions. So if you have questions for Angela, you can write those in right now on autism-live.com, or if you're watching a rebroadcast, email in questions. She's here every Thursday, so if we don't get it in today, we'll get it in next week. All right. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to take on compliance. So you won't want to miss it. Stick with us. Currently, in the United States, 1 in 88 children is affected by autism. 1 in 88 means something different when your child is the one. Recovery is possible. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, host of Autism Live, an online show about autism broadcast by CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm also the mother of a child with autism, my beautiful son, Jem. You know our old joke, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Chicken butt. So we're going to take the chickens. But things weren't always so easy. I remember when Jem was first diagnosed with autism. I used to lay awake at night in bed and pray for someone or something that could help us to get our child back. My prayers were answered by Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. CARD treats autism and other related disorders using the principles of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. It is also recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the U.S. Surgeon General. About a year after we started treatment with CARD, we were able to see tremendous improvement, and we got our child back.
What grade are you in?
Second.
You are a smart cookie, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like school?
Yeah.
Do you have any good friends?
Yeah, Oscar.
Oscar is your best friend?
Yeah.
And my child is just one of thousands to benefit from CARD ABA therapy. Across the nation and around the world, children are making amazing progress and being given the keys to unlock their full potential.
We are extremely grateful for the amazing job CARD has done in helping our daughter. Our daughter today, just in 4 months, I think is a totally different child than when she started with CARD. I kind of see it as, it seems like her brain in a way was asleep, and now that we've gotten so many services, we've seen her wake up.
Did you have some guesses?
Recovery is possible if you take the right steps, if you're willing to put in all the hard work. And 7.5 years, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's worth every little bit, and CARD's been there with us every step of the way.
I have 2 children with autism. I can't imagine a day without CARD or the therapists. They've been so instrumental in helping us with our kids and shaping their lives and helping us help them.
Thank you, Christina Big Alex.
Thank you, Jackie and Mariana.
We've tried other things before ABA, but the most beneficial thing has been ABA services, and I'd be the first person to tell any newly diagnosed family that you have to contact an ABA provider, and if you're lucky enough to have CARD, you're very blessed.
Recovery from autism is absolutely a possibility. We've been recovering children for over 20 years. It's just a matter of identifying the child's medical needs, understanding the child's sensory issues, and then teaching the child all of the skills they need in order to function normally.
We know there's hope for autism. Autism is treatable, and recovery from autism is possible.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're talking about compliance right now. Compliance is one of those things that I always say it's the best of times or the worst of times. If you have it, it is just heaven. You can hear angels sing, and when you don't have it, you just have that sinking feeling like nothing is ever going to be good ever again, right? Is it just me? But that's how I feel. And what a difference if there was one thing that we could have compliance and proper compliance, because when we have compliance, we can teach anything. And when we have compliance, we can diminish or extinguish all challenging behaviors. It's amazing what we can do with compliance. And our life works easier. We can get grocery shopping done. Not to minimize other things, but when you have to put food on the table, getting the grocery shopping done is something that's essential, right? And if you have a child who's not compliant, getting in and out of the grocery store can be a nightmare. Okay, so we've talked a lot in the past weeks about gaining compliance and getting compliance with a small child, getting compliance with a child who's older. How important it is that we praise our kids for any compliance that we have, that we ask them to do things that they already want to do and then praise them because it turns it around. We have to get to the point where they're being reinforced. The principle number one in ABA, in order for any behavior to be maintained, it has to be reinforced. We have to make it rewarding for them to be compliant. So essential. We don't want to forget that. But sometimes after you've started to work on compliance and you've demonstrated to a child that being compliant is this really great thing and all the lights in the house come on and the party starts when you're compliant, sometimes we get into sticky wickets. And from time to time, we will, if we're working with a BCBA, a board certified behavior analyst, they will suggest working with something called a no prompt. Now, as I've said before, I am not an expert at ABA, so I'm going to give you the parent's perspective on a no prompt, and we'll see if we can't get somebody in the coming days that is a BCBA to talk. Maybe we'll have Angela talk with us a little bit later on today about no prompts. But basically what it is that when we ask a child to do something, and we already know that there's a measure of compliance, right? This is not something we do with kids that are just starting out on compliance. We have to see that they really start to get compliance before we put in the no prompt. But we want to move towards them being compliant really quickly, right? That we don't have to, we always talk in my house about being a first-time responder. I remember the first time I heard somebody say this to their child, they said, now remember, be a first-time responder. And I was saying, are we talking about police? Are we talking about firemen, responders? And they were saying, no, I want them to respond the first time I ask them to do something. Oh, how fabulous would that be? So no prompt is something that we can do to work towards that. So if I say to a child, let's say that the child has already demonstrated that they understand when I say come here, and we talked in previous weeks, if you didn't see those, go back and watch those episodes. But if child already has shown that they can master that if I say come here, they know how to come here, they do it on a regular basis, right? But we meet with obstinance sometimes, right? Non-compliance. So with a child who's a little further along, I might say to the child, come here, and the child does nothing. And I say no, and I offer what I asked for again. Come here. And the child still doesn't come, and I say no. Come here. And now I prompt and I show them exactly, and even though I know they already know how to do it, I'm going to physically or gesture or whatever I need, the least intrusive prompt that I need, but I'm going to say, come here, that's my prompt, and that's my SD, and then I'm prompting physically, that's come here. And what it does is show the child that you are not going to get out of this by ignoring me, right? So that's one of the things that the no prompt does, and it gets us back on track. Now, do you just let it go then and go, okay, well, I manhandled them? You don't manhandle them. You very gently, if you need to, take their hands and bring them on. That's come here. But that isn't the end. Then you take the child and you put them right back where they were and give them the opportunity now to do it without the help. And you start again and say, come here. Now, sometimes the child will just come. And if they do, it's party time. I don't care what happened before. right? Because children, their ability to attach things to other things, it's pretty immediate. We're that way too, really. So if they come now and you didn't have to prompt them, it's a party. Remember, reward, compliance, reward, compliance, reward, compliance. If they don't, once again, we say no. And we say, come here. And if they don't do it, no, come here. And we physically prompt them again. And we do this until the child does it on their own. All right. So when we're doing a no-no prompt, from a parent's perspective, there's some really important things to take into consideration. And again, I would like to say that it's best to institute a no-no prompt if you're working with a BCBA and they feel that it's time. You never want to do a no-no prompt with a child who's learning compliance. It's just, you know, I mean, there are different things that you can do. You can prompt, but there's no point saying the no. I want to point out, and I've got some guidelines here, the no is more for us than it is for them. It's like a placeholder. It's a pause. It's an opportunity for the child to comply before we do something. It isn't a no. You know, we're not scolding with a no, so it's got to be a very neutral no, and it's like taking a breath. But we are a very punishment-driven society, and I will say that as a parent, there's something about being able to say no, to acknowledge it didn't happen, that's very wonderful for me. It feels right, but I have to be very careful that it's a neutral no, not a no when I've told you 8 times, right? It's just a no, and then we ask again. So the no is more for us than anything else. Remember that the whole focus of the no-no prompt, the purpose of the no-no prompt is to get to the point where we can offer reinforcement. So if the child isn't complying, we feel like, well, you know, what am I going to do? I'm going to sit here and say, come here till the cows come home, or I'm going to drag them over? No. We're going to do the no-no prompt. No. Come here. No. Come here. No. And we bring them over. The focus is, though, that once they come over, that's coming over. And we give them praise, and maybe we give them a little ruffle of the hair, a little tickle, nothing huge, but some reinforcement, because we have to get to the reinforcement to remind them this train needs to be on this track. When you comply, it's all beautiful. I'm happy, you're happy, we are happy together, right? Now, the last one here, the last is, I think, one of the most important things, because the other are about intent. This is that you have to make sure, if you're going to enter into a no-no prompt time, notice that I said you're going to do it until the child does it on their own. You never want to be doing a no-no prompt where you are in a space where you must give up. So you have to ask yourself before you go into the no-no prompt, are you prepared mentally, physically, and emotionally? If you're at the grocery store and they are closing and they, you know, say last call, everybody has to bring up their stuff to the register and we're leaving, this is not the moment to do the no-no prompt, because it might take 10 minutes before the child can do it. And if you've got people standing around and making it difficult, this may not be the moment to do that. If you have to leave because you have to be at a meeting in 10 minutes, it may not be the moment. If you're having a particularly rough day where your ability to stay neutral and say, you know, this is like washing the dishes, I have no feelings about it, I'm just prompting you to come over here, I have no anger, I have no resentment, I'm being completely emotionally neutral. If you are not in a space where you can do that, today is not the day to do a no-no prompt. And physically, it's very challenging, because sometimes, a lot of times, it's a thing where you have to be able to physically move the child over. If you have slipped a disc and your back is out and you cannot physically prompt them to do something and prevent them from escaping to do other things, or to keep them safe because they're going to start to, you know, have a reaction to this. When they realize the first time I'm not getting out of it, it's like a showdown, right? We're going to keep doing it and I'm going to stay emotionally neutral. And physically, there's one episode of the A Word that we're going to see in a little while where we see the therapist doing this, and the child, I swear, they become octopi. They sprout legs that they didn't know they had, and they don't want to do it. And it's a little bit of a just, you know, keeping doing it and staying emotionally neutral until the child finally realizes, you know, it's a lot easier just to do it and then I get rewarded. But sometimes you have to wait them out. Haven't you ever been in an obstinate mood and you're like, I know I should do that, but I don't want to, right? Our kids are like that, and we have to be patient with them. We don't get angry. You know, maybe inside you're feeling a whole lot of things, but none of it's showing in your physicality, in your face. Nothing's happening. So really important when you're doing a no-no prompt that you make sure that you're in a space that you're ready to carry it out. And you've got to be completely calm and neutral. There is no judgment. It is not a fight. You're not manhandling the child. It's just, oh, we're going to keep doing this, and we're going to keep doing this. And, you know, it's very loving and gentle. And each time that you bring them over, that's coming over. Good job. And then you go back. We'll try it again until they do it on their own. And then it's the party. Party, party, party. Okay, that's the no-no prompt for kids who have already attained some compliance, that are just having that obstinate thing that they will do. Compliance, so important. Stick with us. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how to work on flexibility issues when kids have rigid routines. Stick with us.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and this is my son Jem. We're here today at the Home Depot. You might know that Home Depot is famous for giving free classes to adults on lots of things like tiling and other home crafts. Well, they also have free classes for kids as well. It's called the Kids Workshop. We love doing that, don't we, Jem?
Yeah.
It's cool. So come on inside with us and let's do a craft.
Yay.
The Kids Workshop is a program that's been around with Home Depot almost since we've been a company, and it's been developed to allow kids in the community to come in and give them an opportunity to build something, to be able to create something, and be able to take just simple wood pieces and put them together with nails and hammers and screwdrivers and then paint them.
So you do this every first Saturday of the month.
Any Home Depot that you go to on the first Saturday of every month between 9 and 12, you can join different associates throughout different stores and build these projects with these kids.
And do they have to do anything beforehand, or can they just show up on that Saturday?
All they need to do is show up. We have all the tools, all the materials that the kids will need. We have aprons that we give to the kids that they can take home and maintain their pins. They get pins on a regular basis for completing projects. With that, they can keep track of how many projects they've done. And
it's all free.
It's all absolutely free, all provided.
Which is wonderful. And Wilson, I have to say, you know, you guys devised this for all kids to be able to do this.
Correct.
What I particularly love about it as an autism mom, it gives my child a place to come and learn a new skill, to socialize with kids of all kinds.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here for. Home Depot is definitely loves to be involved with the community and bring the community in to work with us. That's what we love to do.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're talking about executive functions right now and how we can help. One area of executive functions is helping our kids with flexibility issues. Executive functions are the kinds of things, when we put them all together, I sort of think of it as the missing puzzle piece. You know, we so often in autism we talk about what's the missing puzzle piece. And executive functions, I think, is where all the puzzle pieces come together, because it's learning everything that we need to do to follow a goal from the first moment to completion, and then celebrating that goal. Now, that goal could be something small, like being able to go get up in the morning and brush your teeth and have your teeth really be clean, which is not really a small thing if we stop and think about it, or a long-term goal like being able to finish high school and go to college. So goals can be absolutely anything, and we can work on these kinds of goals with any age child. With a very small child, it could be something as simple as building a stack of blocks to a certain height. But we want to help our kids to be able to figure out all the things that they need to do along the way to achieve a goal. And one of the things that we have to do to be able to achieve a goal is be flexible. Because stop and think about it. In your day, how many times have you said, okay, well, And as an autism parent, I'm just laughing because, boy, this flexibility is the name of the game for us, right? So you said to yourself, okay, well, so today, you know, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to go to the grocery store. We're going to have therapy. We're going to do this, and we're going to clean the living room. And then stuff happens, right? The phone rings, and there's an urgent thing, or your child is having a bad day, and you have to adapt what your plan was to what's happening so that you can still get through the day, and maybe some of the stuff that you planned to do got done and some of it didn't. Well, did the goal go away? No. The living room still needs to be cleaned. You still need to do some therapy with your child, and you still need to get to the grocery store. So you have to adjust and say, well, you know, it's going to have to run over in tomorrow. I'm going to have to expand my timeline. The living room isn't going to be cleaned by 4 o'clock today. It's going to be cleaned by 4 o'clock tomorrow. We have to have that level of flexibility to go on, to succeed. Well, how do we give that to our kids? How do we work? Because our kids, as much as we have to be flexible, our kids have that much difficulty sometimes being flexible. It's part of the diagnosis that the possibility that they have rigid routines that they have to adhere to. And if they don't, there's a level of anxiety that can prevent them from getting anything else done and can prevent you from getting anything else done. So how do we work on flexibility? Well, we've got some suggestions for you here. First of all, work slowly. I mean, like molasses in January going uphill slowly. It's not a race, a foot race to see how quickly we can get there. It's amazing to me how I'm always like, rush, rush, rush. How quick can we do something? But sometimes when we just take and do itty bitty little steps, we get there so much faster than if we try to breeze through things. So work incredibly slowly, itty bitty 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 steps. We have to stay emotionally neutral. If the child is having anxiety about something, let's say that your child is absolutely rigid about a routine in the morning, maybe the way in which you drive them to school, and they have anxiety about that happening. Well, when we're ready to work on that, we would do it really slowly. We wouldn't just decide, okay, today we're going to drive in a completely different way and we're not going any of the same way. In fact, we're going to come out of the driveway and go the opposite direction and go miles out of our way to get to the school and just throw them into the deep end of the pool. And what's going to happen? The child is going to have some big anxiety, and then we get into that mode. Maybe you don't, but I do. Where why are you getting so upset? It's not that big of a deal, right? Not staying emotionally neutral. So we need to stay emotionally neutral. But if this is the biggest rigidity issue that we have, it's probably not the thing to start with. We want to start with little rigidity issues. You know, my son didn't have a lot of rigidity issues, but the ones he had were huge. You know what I'm saying? And one of the different things that we saw was that when my son would play the cootie game, and this is, therapists would come to the house and play games with him, and we would work on taking turns, and he would be great with all kinds of games, but we would get to cootie, and he would have to build the cootie that was exactly like the one on the box. It had the red head, and it had the red body, and it had the sneaker shoes on it, and it had to be that way, or there was a meltdown. Big deal. So we started working on his rigidity issues with other games. If there was something where he had a preference for it to be some way, we would say, oh, well, we need to do it this way. And he would have some issues, and we would give him a chance to language it and see that he was going to survive, and we would stay emotionally neutral, right? Then when we went to finally slowly work on the cootie game to have it be something different, we made sure we were ready, that everybody was emotionally ready to work on that, and we did it in a small way. So maybe all of the legs got to be what they were, but the tail was slightly different. It was the red body, the red head, but the tail was slightly different. And there were some tears about it, and it was okay, and everybody stayed neutral, and it was all right, because he was saying to himself, you know, all right, well, the rest of it is okay, so it wasn't the hugest meltdown we had ever had. there was still a reaction, right? Because rigidity is rigidity. But over time, you know, so the tail, and we did that over and over and over again, where it was the tail or one eye that was different, or the nose, the really peripheral things, until finally there was one day when one of us won the red head, so he couldn't have the red head. And he had a reaction, but we went slowly. And you give them tools about, say what you're feeling, and talk about what's really happening, and then going through the process, not allowing them to escape that feeling, going through the process, and when it's over, reinforcing them. You did such a good job with the fact that I know you wanted the redhead, but you did such a good job. And because you did such a good job, here's what we're going to do. Reinforcing it, that you survived it, not saying don't have those feelings, but giving them some real life tools to understand that even though I have those feelings and it didn't go the way I wanted it to, I'm okay. And we build on that and build on that and build on that to the point where, you know, we don't play cootie anymore. It's not the cool thing you do when you're 9. But I know that if we did play cootie, he could have a green body with a blue head and we would be okay. And the sneakers could be with somebody else. It would not be a problem. So take it slowly. Take it slowly, stay emotionally neutral because they're going to have their feelings about them. Let them have their feelings about it, but we have to stay neutral. These things are workable. We'll get through it. And it gives them a lesson that they don't have to get upset. Stay working on that slowly, and don't start with the huge issues. Start with the smaller things. And even when you get to the bigger things, start small. If you're working on going to the school in a different way, pull out of the driveway and go the regular way, and give them conversation about it beforehand. Say, you know, today we have to stop by somebody's house on the way there and have something reinforcing there. So they're going to have some anxiety, but they get to the house, it's okay, and they get some reinforcement for it. And then the next day, maybe you can go that way again, and it's not as big of a deal, so that you're slowly creating a world in which your child sees, okay, if this starts to happen, I'm gonna have these feelings, but it's gonna be okay. It gives them a context. We can and should work on flexibility with our kids. Okay, stick with us. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I think we're doing the myth of the day, so stick with us. You've got something really important here. Just Say No to Strangers, teaching abduction prevention skills to children with autism.
The research shows that for most children, either with a developmental disability or even just typically functioning kids, you actually need to take them out in the community and teach them the skills in the natural environment rather than just in a contrived setting. The results kind of show that there was an increase in skills. They need that behavioral skills training, the actual practice. I had a pool of Confederates that I trained. We did background checks because then the kids had the opportunity to practice those skills with a Confederate, with an actual stranger to them, so that if the actual situation ever occurred, you know, heaven forbid, then they had the appropriate skills.
Welcome back to Autism Live. You know, from time to time, we like to talk about a myth. The myth of the day, we like to call it, because there are so many misconceptions about autism and about autism treatment and about who our kids are and who they're not, and can we lump them all together, because clearly we can't. They're all individuals on this autism spectrum, true spectrum. But I do think it's important from time to time to talk about the different myths so that at least we are educated and we can go out into the world and hopefully bit by bit, when we're not exhausted, educate the rest of the world about autism. You know, I mean, it's being talked about more and more, but we all have to do our part, and it's one of the more exhausting parts of it, right? Well, today I want to talk about punishment. And the fact that we are such a punishment-driven society, and a lot of people still think that, and this is a myth, it's a misconception, it is not true, but a lot of people think that ABA for autism is very punishment-driven. Years ago, there is an element of ABA that suggests that uses the word punishment, but what it means is something is taken away from the person. But years ago, there were some studies that were done that dealt with corporal punishment, and there are still people who participate in the idea of corporal punishment for autism, but that is not ABA. That is not ABA. ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, one of the main principles of ABA is that we will only do something if there is a reward for it. So that is where our head always wants to be, is how can we reinforce or reward a child for doing something that we want them to do, or the absence of something that we don't want them to do. So if a child is engaging in a repetitive behavior, they're slamming a door shut and open 700 times a day, and it's to the point where the child can't learn, the child isn't interacting, and quite frankly, they're driving us crazy. It's no way to live, right? Nobody ever said, oh, I can't wait to have a child who all they do is sit there and slam a door open and closed. We need to change that behavior for everyone's benefit. I think we can all be in agreement of that. So, you know, there are people who would take the tack of, well, let's punish the child when we do that. But studies show, research has shown that that's not effective, because what will happen is maybe we can stop that behavior in a very short term and make everybody miserable. But in the long term, what will happen is the child will wait until the next opportunity when we are away, and then they're going to go back and open and close the door. And as a parent and as a former teacher, that's not what I want. That's not what I want at all. What I want is for the child to want to engage in other things. So I need to change the environment in which this is happening. And one of the things that I can do is reinforce the child for not opening and slamming the door. And if I do it in a way that's proper and right, the chances are, and statistics and research has shown, that if I do that properly, even when I'm not there, the child will cease to engage in opening and slamming the door. We just went through this last week, 2 weeks ago, with my son on the very first day of 4th grade. I was so excited to pick him up at the gate, and I love his new teacher. She's somebody that I know, and I've been in her classroom a lot. And I said, how did it go today? And she said, oh, it was not a good day. And I said, what? And she said, he watched the clock tick every single second. Every single second of the clock, you know, and at one point he even interrupted a lesson with the class and said, I think it stopped working. I didn't see it move for a second. That it just about drove her bananas. And this was not a behavior that we wanted to continue. Now, you know, I guess there are some people who would have wanted to punish him for that. That didn't occur to me at this point in my life, because I know what works is to reinforce the absence of the behavior. And so we put him on a schedule and said, if you can look at the clock this many times, because it's got to be realistic, right? But if you don't, then we're going to give you this. And we did deliver that reinforcement, and I was so patting myself on the back saying, look what we did a great thing. But in reality, what actually maintained the not looking at the clock was that they introduced the computers in the class, and my son is so excited about computers. It was so much more reinforcing to be playing with the computer and learning how to do things on the computer than looking at the clock. Now he's not looking at the clock anymore. So I just want everybody to know that ABA is all about finding how to reinforce behavior we want to see, or reinforce the absence of behavior. That's what it's about. It's very rare, if ever, that we talk about punishment. And when we do talk about punishment, it's got to be under the right circumstances, removing something under the right circumstances. And you never want to be engaging in punishment with a child with autism unless you have somebody helping you to determine what is right and proper. It is not the go-to. Not for ABA, it's quite the opposite. It's reward driven. So if somebody's talking to you about ABA and saying punishment or corporal punishment, they're not talking about the same thing we're talking about here. That's our myth for the day. Hey, it's that time of day when we talk about the A word. We didn't have an opportunity to show the A word yesterday. I'm so sorry. But this is a really remarkable documentary being made by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. They're following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. Now, in real time, Jack Riley is now 3, and you can be watching all of these episodes on their YouTube channel, but we go through, and we've gone back to the beginning, so we're in episode 4. Jack Riley has been having ABA therapy for about 2 weeks, and we're seeing that this is not an easy thing for a family to settle into, because that's the truth. I'm not going to candy coat it for you. ABA therapy and intensive ABA therapy is life-changing, and it's so worth it, but it's not an easy transition to have strangers in your house and to be on a schedule with your child and have other people telling you, here's what you have to do. It doesn't feel right like what you normally do. It feels counterintuitive, but it's going to make a long-term difference. So let's drop in on this young family and see how Jack Riley is doing. This is the A word.
Where's Jack Riley? I don't know. All I see are his little feet. Where'd he go? Where is he? Where is he? Oh, I found him. I found him. I found his little face. Oh, there's Jack Riley. So this is visual stimming. So there's basically no particular function for it. It's just automatic to him. Hey, let's go find something better to play. Do you want to play with Legos? Say open. Ben, yeah. Open. So we just redirect it so that it doesn't become just a habit later. Okay, let's do some talking. Say ba. Good job. Say ga. Good job. There you go, buddy. We're moving along programs quite quickly, more than we anticipated. This is the codes program we started with him. Say ba. Say pa. Say say go. Good job. Say ya. Say ya. Try again. Say ya. That's close. Say ya. Say ya. Almost, buddy.
To get him to begin talking, he needed to start with the basics. Every step is broken down to make the end goal manageable. The first step is making simple sounds. The idea is that once he has the sounds, he will be able to mix them together to enunciate words. Words give power. They are used to label, acquire, inquire. The end goal is to have these words come together to create sentences, to create conversation. Say what he wants, what he thinks, what he feels.
Say ya. Say it louder, okay? Say ya. And when you get your Lego, say ya. Nope. Say ya. Yeah, there you go. That's close, honey. Say E. Good job. Say T. Good. Very good. There you go. So these are just a list of the sounds that he makes or the words that he's trying to say.
Can you say basketball? And even his ball is better now. It used to be ga consistently, and he says ba.
He said ball today, yeah.
Spaghetti. One version of it. You see, like spaghetti.
What's that? Say moon. Yeah, that's the moon. That's right. And his spontaneous language has increased just 1 week of therapy. Hey, Jack Riley. Come here. Come look at my book. Or you want to look at my guitar? You look at my guitar? It's right here. You want it. Look. Tar. Good job. Hip hop. should we play now? See you soon. See you soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Welcome back. That is the A word. And first of all, can I say what a sweet, precious little boy. Absolutely amazing to see the difference in him. And you have the opportunity to be watching these episodes at your convenience on their YouTube channel, which you're seeing there in front of you. So if you want to go back and watch the first episode, or if you want to watch the most recent episode and see how he's doing a year after this video was taken, it's really amazing. I always say, you know, this is a wonderful opportunity to see the arc of ABA. You know, sometimes you step into ABA for a moment and you see a little snapshot of what's happening right here, and it often can look weird because you're teaching a part of a skill, a little segment of a skill, and you think to yourself as a parent, where are we going with this? And when you get to see over time though, and you go, oh my goodness, that's where we're going with that. That's how you build building blocks to get to a full skill. Really amazing. And then to see the child, they get to mastery and then get to generalization. And I'll tell you something, as a parent, that's when the lights come on and you go, wow, okay, this is amazing. I always refer to ABA as the autism miracle in my living room because I get shivers. I literally just got chills thinking about some of the times when I would see some little skill being worked on with my son, and I would think, I don't know. And then maybe a week or 2 weeks later, and I would get to see how that was being built upon to get to things. And now that he is older and we're starting to see some of those things with the executive functions and the cognition all come to fruition, to have things come out of his mouth that I just sit there and go, wow, I believed that we were going to get here. I prayed for us to get here, but how exciting to get to see how we got here. So I encourage you to watch the A Word. It's truly amazing and educational. I cry when I watch it. I cry a lot. I admit that freely. I never used to cry. All my friends can attest to this, that I was never a crier. I was the hardened person who could manage not to snivel over anything, and now I cry at the drop of a hat. This is what having a child does to you. It's okay. It's worth it. I'll take it any day of the week. In any case, the A Word, really remarkable, an opportunity to see inside a family, to see their journey through autism. Quite remarkable. Check it out. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by BCBA, Board Certified Behavior Analyst Angela Persicke, and we got a lot of things to talk with her about, but of course, we're always taking your questions. Now's a great time to write in if you have questions for Angela, but stick with us through these messages.
Skills is a revolutionary web-based program that incorporates comprehensive assessment, curriculum design, progress tracking, and treatment evaluation for children with autism all in one place. Developed by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Our approach is based on over 40 years of research on the principles of learning and their application to improving the lives of children with autism. How does Skills work? Created with speed and simplicity in mind, Skills was modeled on an easy 3-step process. Step 1. Start assessment. Step 1 begins with our intelligent assessment system, which consists of a series of questions. This assessment is essential to identifying your child's level of skills compared to their typical peers across all areas of development. This includes assessing social, motor, language, adaptive, play, cognition, executive functions, and academic skills. Every skill has an assigned age which indicates when the skill emerges during typical development. This means that each child is automatically presented only with lessons that are relevant to his or her age. Step 2. Choosing activities. It's now easier than ever to build an individualized treatment plan. In Step 2, you are presented with an individualized pool of activities that are directly linked to your student's assessment results. Each activity represents a specific skill that has been indicated by the assessment as needing to be taught. Activities are categorized by curriculum and then by lesson. There are 3 main types of skills: building blocks, fundamental, and expansion skills. Fundamental skills are necessary for successful everyday functioning. Building blocks are prerequisites to a fundamental skill. Expansion skills are non-essential skills, but may provide further enrichment in certain areas. After reviewing the activities available to you, you can quickly add your chosen activities to the treatment plan by simply checking the box and clicking the button. Step 3. Start treatment. Once you have selected and added the activities you want, you are ready to begin teaching. Skills provide you with all the tools necessary to design and manage an effective curriculum plan, such as printable activity guides that are customizable by the teacher, supplemental teaching aids including printable data sheets, teaching guides, visual aids, worksheets, and tracking forms, detailed IEP goals and benchmarks for each activity, brief and visually appealing video tutorials, a variety of treatment progress and clinical timeline charts, and lots more. And since Skills is completely web-based, everything you need is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in one easy-to-access location. Skills users even benefit from unlimited access to a support community, where they can ask questions and share ideas with a skills expert. Skills is always with you.
Welcome back to Autism Live. It is that time of the week when we welcome to the show BCBA Board Certified Behavior Analyst Angela Persicke. Thank you for being here with us.
Of course, anytime.
It's Thursday. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks.
And we should say what your position here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders is.
I am a Research and Development Supervisor, and with the nonprofit Autism Research Group, I am the Assistant Director.
Which is fabulous. And we have a little business to take care of, something that we talked about, I don't know whether it was last week or the week before, but you talked to us about bedtime passes, because we were talking about bedtime rituals. So look what I have done here. I have created a bedtime pass sticker thing, because this is what I do with my spare time. And we made this on a template so that if you would like one at home, you could have the template. All you have to do is email us, or you can ask us on Facebook, and we will give you the template. But I think we're going to give this actual one away. But Angela, walk us through, what does this do for us? How is this going to make our lives better? I made one of these for my son as well,
so great.
So we start with this tonight.
So for this, as we talked about, I think it was 2 weeks ago.
I think it was 2 weeks ago.
If your child is having problems with going to bed and staying to bed, this is a great, great tool. It's called the Bedtime Pass, and we've used it with some kids here with autism, and it's worked amazingly. And it involves giving little passes, little tickets. And Shannon wonderfully wrote on here, good for one trip out of bed. So if that has to do with getting water, you know, one more hug, I just need to tell you a story, anything like that, the child only has so many coupons that they can use, and then that's it.
That's it. It's over from that.
And of course, you know, this depends on how many you use, depends on how many trips the child is actually taking out of bed originally, you know, in what we call baseline.
Okay, so first thing we have to do is observe our child over how many nights?
probably, depending, maybe 3 days to a week.
Okay. And we're just going to mark down how many times they got out of bed before they gave it up.
Exactly.
Okay. And we're not going to try to influence them on those nights. We're just trying to see how many times because I know for me, sometimes it feels like it's 22 times, but really it might be 2 or 3 times that they actually get up. So we're going to take that baseline and figure out how many. Now, if they're getting up 3 times, let's say that's what they're doing, how many passes should I give?
You may want to start with 2, just 1 less than what they're doing now.
Okay.
We always want to plan for success originally, and then once the child is using those 2 coupons or less, then reduce it down to 1.
Okay. So, and would I ever start, if they were doing 3, I would never start at 3, or I might if it's a really
you usually want to do at least 1 less.
Okay. Okay, so what I would do on this, when I was making this, I would just print 2 passes then, and I wouldn't put the extra Velcro on. And I'm going to hang this on my son's door so that when he gets out of bed, what he has to do is rip one of them off, and he has to come and give it to us so that it demonstrates that he is only got 1 left. Now, one of the things, as I was explaining this to my husband last night, he was saying, now, what is the purpose of this? And I said, well, that a lot of times, you were mentioning that a lot of times kids will work really hard to make sure that they have 1 left for an emergency.
Yeah, just in case the boogie monster shows up.
And that by saying to them, okay, we get it, I think it's so important. We all want to be heard, right? And we all want to feel comfortable. And by knowing that they have 2 trips out of bed, and your research has shown that we're much more likely to have success.
Exactly.
Oh, and then it's just clearly defined, and we can go on with our lives, and we can go back to sleep or watching bad television or whatever it was that we hoped that we could do if our children would just stay in bed. Okay, so not complicated.
Nope.
Just a couple of different steps. Now, how do we explain this to our kids?
You'd explain it just like we're explaining it now.
Okay.
You only have these 2 chances to get what you want once you get in bed, and then after that, I'm not answering you. I'm not responding to you, and you need to stay in bed.
Okay.
So that's really it. Hopefully, if you're at the point where you can use this, your child obviously needs to have the expressive repertoire and be able to understand some of these concepts. Like you exchange this and you get whatever you need. So
maybe this isn't your first token economy kind of thing. No. And we can also build into this that there's some sort of reinforcement if they've stayed in bed after the coupons are gone. That's going to be essential.
It's going to be very important. You know? So if they only use their 2 passes, then the next morning they can get something special or program reinforcement.
Something that is specific to your child. Something that's actually reinforcing. This is always the thing that's confusing to me, because what's reinforcing to me isn't reinforcing to my child, and it's not reinforcing if it doesn't maintain it. That's just the hardest thing for me. I'm like, well, that should work. On paper, that should work. Why isn't that working? Because it's not reinforcing enough to him. So, for instance, for my son, and I just put these back on, but I'm going to take them off to show you that you can. If we start with 2 passes, and if we get to, he can use both of them. He doesn't have to have one left on here, but if he doesn't get back out of bed after the second pass is used, then he might get 25 cents towards a toy that he wants the next morning to put in his bank. And so he would get up, and this is how my child works. You can say something to him right before he goes to sleep. He goes to sleep and sleeps for 8 hours, wakes up, and he's finishing the sentence that he was finishing when he went to sleep. And he'll wake up and say, I earned the quarter. Let me put the quarter in my bank. So that's... but that's what would be reinforcing, perhaps, to my child. But find something that's reinforcing for your child. But if they do get up past that second pass, we're not having a conversation in that moment. We're not saying to them, you don't get that quarter now. We're doing planned ignoring.
Planned ignoring, exactly.
Okay.
And that might be rough, and that's, why also you don't want to, if the child is getting out of bed 10 times, you don't want to say, okay, you only get 1 pass. Right. You you want to give them enough so that it's not this big deal,
Right.
you know, that they don't get out of bed anymore. You know,
Right.
it's just slowly, progressively planning this so it's easy for both the parent and the child.
And tell me how I'm doing in terms of the other night, because I didn't have the pass, but he'd gotten up a couple of times, and we were past the point, and I had already said, I'm not going to talk to you anymore about this. You need to stay in bed. And he got back up. And I was watching television. Dad wasn't home from work yet. He got up, and he came downstairs, and I think he thought, oh, this is great, because she's not going to say anything, and I'm going to lay here on the couch, and I'm going to watch TV. And so what I did was I made sure I was recording the program that I wanted to watch before this all happened, and I turned off the TV, I turned off all the lights downstairs, and I got up, and so the house is dark, and I got upstairs, and I went to bed, laid down on the bed. I wasn't going to bed yet, I had stuff I had to do, but I laid down on the bed, and there was nothing going on. So he had no choice. He didn't want to be downstairs by himself. He went upstairs, and he got in bed. It took him all of 2 minutes to go to sleep. It was he saw I meant business, and I didn't say anything. I didn't say, see there?
Perfect.
And 2 minutes later, he was asleep, and I got to come back downstairs and finish watching my program.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm not sure if I'm doing it right, so
yeah,
I have to check.
and you know, that might that whole thing that you did and that whole behavior chain that you engaged in just to get him into bed seems like a lot of effort, but you know, it's really important to not bargain and not have this discussion, oh, go back to bed, go back to bed, go back to bed, because when you're engaging in that, the child is still up.
He's getting to escape the thing he doesn't want to do. And that really clicked with me a couple of weeks ago. And quite honestly, can I tell you, I felt like it was really severe. I was like, this really kind of stinks that I have to turn off my program, and I have to turn off the lights, and I have to go upstairs, and I have to pretend that I'm sleeping. You know what? It only took 2 minutes, and I got back to my program much quicker than any other night that week when I sat there and said, you need to go to bed. I'm going to bed. So it really was a lot less effort.
Exactly.
I
know, it seems like a lot more effort, but again, it's not going to be. And the thing is, you know, the child wants to be up where something is going on and something interesting is happening. If, you know, you go do that and that's obviously not interesting, and like you're going to bed, like that's not interesting to him.
Nothing's going on. And you know what I remembered, which is so funny, that when he was just a baby, when he was maybe 7 weeks old, he was staying up all night long. He just totally was. And I remember saying something to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician said, well, what's happening when he's awake at night? And I said, well, you know, I rock him and I feed him and I sing to him. And he said, well, why would he go to sleep?
Exactly.
You're having a party. Make it boring and he'll go to sleep. I just didn't feed that into my brain now. I'm older. He's older. I wasn't thinking about it, but it's exactly the same thing. I want to point out, too, that on these passes, I put numbers on them so that if you're working on building numbers, too, it will help you and it will help them to remember how many passes. I've only given you 5 passes, but if you wanted to, you could make a second set of them. You just print 2 of the PDFs if you need more, and there you have it. So, but you're not necessarily going to need 5. A lot of you are not going to need 5. Just a really fun way to start. We're going to give you details about, somebody is going to give this one, but you have some exciting news to share about some research that you're doing about the bedtime pass.
Yes,
so go for it.
We are still taking participants for this protocol that we run on the bedtime pass. So if you're in a situation where you think this would be great for your child and you want to see how this would work, and you're like, okay, I'm going to download that template, just go ahead and email us or Facebook us and let us know that you're interested in participating. Because we do this as treatment evaluation research, everything is free.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes. And this protocol is fairly simple. We'll train you on how to run it and how to do it, and then you'll just report back to us. And so we will be there every step of the way to help you, and especially if your child is appropriate for this protocol, and then the results will be published for the world to see, except no names or anything would be attached to it.
So if you want to participate in this protocol, which is like, for those of us who don't know and use these terms, it's like another research opportunity.
Exactly.
That you could participate in, and you could be in contact with and getting support about doing this with someone like yourself.
Exactly.
And other BCBA's board certified behavior analysts and other therapists to getting free support to do that and staying in contact on the phone to make sure that you're doing it right. How fabulous is that?
Yep, and the reason we're able to do this is because we want to disseminate the results of studies like these to show that this works and allow the world to access these data and see, okay, we can do something like this if we're having this problem. So really, you are helping us out by getting the word out to the community and the world.
Mutually beneficial. Research about the bedtime pass. You can get the template for this. Just email us. And if you want to participate in the study and get some support while you're implementing this, you can do it as well. The bedtime pass. It's awesome.
Yes.
All right, stick with us. We're going to be back more with Angela Persicke after these messages.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him going on to fascinate millions with his talent? 1 in 260,000. The odds of this born racer having 157 career top 10 finishes in NASCAR? 1 in 125 billion. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year? 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 88. I'm NASCAR driver Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here with board-certified behavior analyst Angela Persicke, talking about a wide range of subjects, but right now I want to talk about our subject for the week, our topic for the week, which is maintaining progress.
Yes.
As a parent, this is something that is really important to me, but it's a little elusive sometimes to me, and it's wrapped in some emotion and some fear.
Yeah.
My son has the kind of autism that he regressed into autism, so we lost skills. And I now know that my son is infinitely teachable. He's learned so many skills over the years, but I live in constant fear that he will lose skills again, because from time to time he has, when we didn't maintain them properly. And I was saying to Angela during the break that I know that I have a tendency, he gets something and I go, oh, phew, good, we can move on to the next thing, and I move away too quickly. So finding that area where we're staying on top of something but not being the helicopter parent, which I get accused of being, because I am, you know, what's the mix? So how do we truly maintain progress and let go of the fear and stay in a place where our child has gotten a skill and we make sure they keep it?
Well, you know, just to think of it this way, as a rule of thumb, when you're not using something every day or periodically, you're going to forget it. That's just for any person. That's how it goes. I mean, do we remember what we learned in 5th grade about, you know,
no, there's a whole game show about that.
Exactly.
Because we don't.
Exactly. And that's how it is for everybody. If something is not being reinforced periodically, and that's how we maintain something, you know, reinforcing it and bringing it back and reintroducing things periodically, you'll lose the skill. Okay. That's just how it goes.
So making sure that periodically that it's part of what we're doing, giving them opportunities to do it again and again and again, is going to be key.
You know, once we program for something, we oftentimes contrive the reinforcers. So we'll give social praise for just knowing your colors or anything like that. we have to also program natural consequences. So the natural contingencies that keep us remembering things, you know. Why is it important for us to remember colors on a daily basis, you know, so we can describe things to other people and engage in these social interactions. Sometimes those aren't so important to children with autism, especially social interactions. And so building in what we call conditioned reinforcement, so pairing, you know, these contrived reinforcers, giving a toy, giving food, social praise, you know, anything like that, with the natural contingencies and the natural consequences that will maintain the behavior is very important. So, you know, for eye contact, for example, you work on that for a while, but if you stop that altogether, what is to say that the child will continue to make eye contact if you take away the contrived reinforcer? So the child makes eye contact and you say, oh, good job, here's your toy. If the child isn't getting the toy, why would the child keep making eye contact with you? But for typically developing individuals, making eye contact is important to understanding emotions and to see what the person is talking about, joint attention, everything like that. So building in those natural consequences so that when the child makes eye contact, they are getting other things besides just these contrived reinforcers, toys, and food, whatever.
So for that example, so we've started with the toy, that they get the toy, but what other reinforcers are we conditioning with that? Praise?
Social praise is a conditioned reinforcer because, you know, our children aren't necessarily reinforced by social praise in the beginning. So you have to pair it with things that are actually reinforcing to make the value of that social praise increase.
Okay, so let me see if I follow this. Our goal is for them to make the eye contact completely on their own someplace down the road. But so right now what we're going to do is we're going to give them two things for when they make eye contact. We're going to give them something we already know that they find reinforcing, like the car. But we're also going to give them praise or something else like that for it, that we're going to build it so that at some point we're going to fade out the car. Then the praise is going to be the thing that reinforces it, so that somewhere down the road we don't even have to do the praise, they're just automatically going to do the eye contact, because by then they are finding that when I look at you, things are better for me.
Exactly.
We communicate better.
Exactly. And that's a lot of levels of complexity, you know.
Yeah, that's a long...
and it's a long process. And when you think about especially eye contact, and if a child is just beginning to speak, even if they're not looking, even if the child is not looking at you, we often be like, oh, what do you want? What do you need? So building in, when a child asks for something, they have to look at you. So that getting the reinforcer that they need in that moment in time, the eye contact is built into that. And so that's, you know, pairing it with the reinforcer that they need as well, that there's a contingency that they have to do that in order to get the reinforcer.
All right, that's a lot to think about, but we see that over time that it works. So my next part of the question is that, let's say that they've been doing it. Let's say that you worked on all that and it's years later, and I see this sometimes with my son, that, you know, he will make great eye contact, and then we have a day when I don't know where it went. You know, it went away. So in order to maintain that progress, then we just go back to the last thing that worked, like with prompting?
You know, prompting, everyone uses prompting. Oh, what are you doing? Why aren't you looking at me? You know, what did you say? I couldn't hear you. Everybody says this, you know, if they need to get what they need from the child or from another person. So it's not that uncommon to use things like that. But also, you have to understand that if for some reason there's, you know, a day or two where the child isn't making eye contact, be very careful not to reinforce that. So if you notice your child is looking away and not making eye contact while talking to you, you should prompt that and make sure that you're not responding until the eye contact is there. So what you'll see is that if you reinforce that, even if you don't realize you're reinforcing it by answering the questions and engaging with the child, even if the eye contact isn't there, then you'll start to see less eye contact.
Right, because if they can get away with it, why wouldn't they do that? You know, I think we're better at that with politeness in our house. That we, you know, because we started teaching him the words thank you and please and all those things, and then we prompted, and we reinforced, and then we gradually faded it, and then there would be a period of time where, you know, what's the magic word, still prompting, and then we went through a period of time where nothing would happen. He would say, can I have juice, and nothing would happen. It would be as if he didn't say it, and then he would have to sit there and think about it. But it wasn't like it was a guessing game with him. There had been a period of time when I would say, I can't answer you unless I hear a magic word. But eventually he would think about it and go, oh, wait a second, I have to say something. But I don't think that I am as rigid with it with eye contact, which is more important to me.
And also, one thing we have to remember is that look at what typical developing individuals do. We don't sit here and stare at each other this whole time. You know, you avert your eye contact, come back, and so we don't want to teach that either. And there's this very thin line of what's socially appropriate and what's not, and that's something that we really have to focus on when we're teaching these skills too. That what is appropriate? Is it appropriate to prompt your child to look at you every single time? No.
Okay.
But if you see that the child is not making eye contact at the times that are necessary, you know, especially when there are multiple people in the room, eye contact is very important to know who you're talking to.
Exactly.
So in those situations, you start to shape the behavior into what is socially appropriate. But you have to understand also, if it's not happening, there's something going on that's making it so he doesn't have to make eye contact. So something else is reinforcing not making eye contact.
All right. So then we go back to looking for functions. But we do frequently say, who are you talking to, dude? And then he fixes it. He knows immediately, and he looks and gets it right back on track. Okay, maintaining progress, a really important thing, that we're mindful and that we give opportunities and that we reinforce so that it stays progress and doesn't go away.
And back to what I was saying, for anything, we're focusing a little more on eye contact, but for anything you have to understand that these skills aren't just going away. You know, they're not engaging in these skills for some reason. There is a reason in the environment why this isn't happening, and it may be because someone reinforced the behavior.
That's really good for me to realize, because I literally think of it as going away. It doesn't go away, it just isn't being reinforced enough. Oh, that's a good thing. All right, that gets rid of some of the fear. Fabulous. Maintaining progress. We're going to take a short break and come back and talk more with Angela Persicke. I think we're going to talk about social skills next, so stick with us.
Just go like this. Can you see me? What's me, Dad? Okay. Hi, I'm Rebecca Ishida. Say hi, Ethan. Hi. My son was diagnosed with autism in November 2004. With Ethan, almost immediately, we noticed things that were troublesome, that he just didn't sleep. He would vomit in the crib. There were a lot of sensory issues.
Then he'd have like 20 of the trains lined up, and if you came in and took one train out, just meltdown completely.
Guttural instinct is to think that there's nothing wrong. Who wants to look at their child and go, there's something wrong with that child? You don't. You always want to see the best in your child.
Will my kid be able to go to school? Will he interact with his peers? Will he be able to have a healthy relationship? Will he get married? I really thought that autism was like a death sentence. A lot of hope was given to me through CARD. This was my third agency, and the best agency we had. And there was no way in the world I was going to give up CARD because of the gains I saw Ethan was having.
Yeah, you did it!
And I remember when Doreen saw us for the evaluation, she says, but by the time he's 6, he will be recovered. And that's exactly what happened.
I'll fix it.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our special guest right now is BCBA, Board Certified Behavior Analyst Angela Persicke. When I think about my life earlier, if somebody had said BCBA, I had no idea what they're talking about. Now it's a part of my everyday language. But just for those of you who don't know, Board Certified Behavior Analyst, it's quite a title. And we look to BCBAs to help us frequently when we've got a child on the autism spectrum. They not all BCBAs are skilled with autism. They're skilled with ABA. We want to make sure that we're working with BCBAs who have experience with autism. Just want to throw that little disclaimer in there. But you are a very skilled BCBA who has worked extensively with children on the autism spectrum. So we're thrilled to have you here. One of the things that we talk about from time to time are social skills. It's a big topic in the field of autism. And, you know, I hear parents talking about it all the time. It's something that it's going to affect all of our kids on the spectrum. Whatever age, whatever their ability, their social skills could be stronger. And recently I heard somebody say, well, I just don't know, can that stuff really be worked on? That they felt like they, with the kinds of things that they were doing, which wasn't ABA, by the way, they weren't having success. So talk to me a little bit about the fact that you can, with ABA, right? To have success with teaching social skills.
Yes, especially the skills curriculum. It includes a whole social curriculum within a social domain, and it starts at what we were just talking about, eye contact, and moves all the way into conversational exchanges, how to know when to end a conversation, which is
I can't do it.
Yeah, very difficult, and into you know, it kind of overlaps a little bit with perspective taking and understanding other people, and so everything involved in learning to be a social being, we teach every single day. And yes, a lot of people say, no, you can't teach that unless, you know, the child is learning from their environment, from other people and picking up on those skills. They can't teach it, but you can. But it is very difficult. There are so many levels of complexity, and what we've talked about every single time, and you know, this fine line between what is appropriate and what isn't appropriate, and what, you know, individuals that are typically developing just pick up from their environment and from seeing other people. Individuals with autism don't necessarily do that. And there is this social reinforcement that we were just talking about that you have to condition almost, because individuals with autism aren't necessarily reinforced socially. That's not reinforcing to them to engage with other people. You'll see this a lot. Sometimes they just want to sit by themselves and play with the toys themselves instead of engaging with other people, where you know, an individual without autism at, you know, the age of 1 will start interacting with others in their environment. Even before that, start making bids for joint attention, looking at mom and looking at something else that they want. And so this is something that, you know, starts very early. And even when when children come in very early, 18 months, and may be at risk for autism. Some people who give diagnoses, some psychologists, are weary to give a diagnosis that young, but you see the red flags. And you'll see that the child is not making these social bids that a typical child would. And we talk about that more, that social interactions are just not reinforcing for the child in some way or another. So but we teach these skills starting at that age, even starting with making eye contact and looking at an object that the child wants and then looking back. And initially, if a child is that young coming into our program, we start with these very, very basic skills.
Yeah. It's so amazing to me because when my son was diagnosed, he was 2.5, and we had had a period of time where he had been developing typically, or so they said, and he had language and all of those different things. But as I pick it apart from time to time, when I want to walk down crazy land, and I do, like any other parent, about, you know, what happened when and how did this all come about, it's interesting to me how I learn more and more about it. And there was an incident a couple of months ago. We were at Disneyland, and I don't know that it's important, but there's a ride where after you go on it, you can stand in line and you type in your email address, and they send you a picture of you on the ride. And my son loves this. We all find it very reinforcing to check our scores and to see how ridiculously we look in the picture. So we stand in the line. And we were standing there in the line, and I was watching a mom 2 lines over stand there with her daughter, who was somewhere between 1 year and 2 years old. And I was watching what happened, and she wasn't holding on to the little girl at all. The little girl was standing there next to her, and she kept looking up at her mom. And then her mom would look at her watch or look at her phone or whatever, and the little girl would notice what the mom was looking at. And then the mom would look at the screen as the line would move, but the little girl kept, and she was noticing her environment, and she kept checking in with her mom. And she wasn't holding on to the little girl. And I remembered thinking, what? And just watching this interaction and realizing that even when my son had language, that wasn't happening. That wasn't happening. My child, because right next to that is a gift shop with toys and bins out. My child would have run off the ride, and I would have been running after him. He might have stopped for a second at the toys, but he would have been out the door and just been running. And we always said, well, you know, he's a busy pants. That was our expression. Well, you know, he's a busy pants. And he was very attached to me. He loved to be held. But if I wasn't holding him up, like just holding hand, he was gone.
Yeah, and that's something that you see right away from a very young age, and a lot of parents won't notice it because maybe, you know, that's the only child. You say, oh, he's just so busy, he's into his toys, you know, his attention is all over the place, something like that, until, you know, you send the child to preschool. And you see the child with other children interacting or not, and that's why we see a lot of times children not even coming in for a diagnosis until they're in, you know, preschool or kindergarten.
Absolutely. We got a couple of questions that came in. Okay, let's take this one first. The question is, I'm going to show this to our audience at home. I want so much to use social, teachable moments to help my child, but I don't want to constantly correct in public. I'm so with you on this. It's a fine line to know when to intervene and when not to. He's 10 years old and mainstreamed. I feel this too, that sometimes I just feel like I pick at him and pick at him and pick at him when we're in a social situation. And one of the things, and I want to hear your opinion on this too, Angela, one of the things that when we used to go to birthday parties and we would take a therapist with us, they were as much talking to me as they were to my child, and saying to me, you know, before we got there, let's have 1 or 2 social goals to have. Let's set the criteria, and everything else less important this time. Sometimes that means missing an opportunity in this particular interaction. It'll come up again. But having our goals to know whether or not we were successful.
Yeah, that's perfect, because you know, in those situations, birthday parties or you know, out in public at a park, there are so many social interactions that occur, and if you don't have goals, you will feel like you're picking on your child the whole time. And what will probably happen too is you'll place a lot of demands on your child, and your child will try to escape those demands. And you have to build in the goals and the reinforcers too. It's so important to just not keep prompting and reminding your child, but to also give them the reinforcers when they are performing the skill correctly, or when you see the child make eye contact with his peers when they're talking, or go up to a peer and ask them to play, you know, or ask him or her to play, anything like that. You want to give a reinforcer for that, because if you don't, it just feels like a lot of demands, and without getting anything out of it. And of course, because there are so many deficits in social skills, just interacting with the peer may not be reinforcing to the child.
Absolutely.
So you have to build in those reinforcers and back to maintaining progress.
Right.
To, you know, condition the social aspects of this into reinforcers as well.
And you may have already said this, but because I was thinking at the same time, but also with the reinforcement, sometimes in the social situation, if we tell them beforehand, here's the expectation, and give the reinforcer afterwards, that there's some sort of token economy or some sort of sign saying, you know, you got this sticker, you know, if you're able to do this with the friend, then you know, we're going to go do this afterwards or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be the reinforcement right then if you have some sort of signal or token economy or something.
And this is always difficult for parents too because it feels very unnatural.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, you know, what is good for your child and what will help your child in this situation.
Absolutely. So I'm going to mark that one complete. And then the other comment that was sent in that I think is really helpful and I want to address briefly if we can, would it be possible to show a video of ABA being used at home with an older child like you've done with the A word but with older kids? And we actually in the skills program they continue to create videos for the different individual lessons. So all of them don't have a video attached yet, but there are some, especially for the older type executive function and cognition skills, where they actually show them working with older children, and we have access to a couple of those as well here. I can think of one video that they were doing with white lies, and they were playing the game and it's older kids trying to teach them. So we'll scare some of those up, and in the coming episodes we'll show some of those.
Yeah, I believe in the skills system they have videos maybe up to about an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
They have for older children. That's in the skills system, but I'm sure there are some videos
and I can think of at least one that's about 8 or 9-year-old, and we'll also put in a request for that as well, ongoing, that that's what you guys would like to see. We so appreciate when you guys tell us what you need. And that's a really good point.
That's great.
All right, so we've talked a little bit about social skills. We could talk about it forever, but at least a little bit for right now. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to continue to talk with Angela for a couple of more minutes before we close out the show, so stick with us.
My name is Michael McKnight, and I live on Staten Island. I love hearing myself on the radio. Every Thursday I'm on. It's energetic. It's fantastic. I love the radio show more than a kid loves chocolate cake. I got a lot of followers on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. This job makes me feel important. This job makes me feel like I have a purpose. Like they believe that I'm capable of handling such big responsibilities, and I like that a lot. Why is it important for people with disability and special needs to be given the same experiences that a normal functioning person would? We're all capable and can do the same job. It's just the pace we do it in. Some of us need extra assistance. Even Bill Gates can't do some things on his own. He's a trillionaire. Just that little extra support goes a long way.
Visit autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're here with BCBA Board Certified Behavior Analyst Angela Persicke. We only have her for a couple of more minutes, but we've been talking about maintaining progress all week long.
Yes.
I just wanted to get your opinion on when you're working with a child and when it appears that progress is slow. Sometimes we go through these periods of time where your child leaps through something, and then, you know, sometimes it's just a little bit harder. What kinds of things do you look for when you see that progress is slow?
Specifically looking at the data.
Yeah.
We want to...
Did you see how her eyes lit up when she said that? Because Angela loves the data.
I do love the data.
I love looking at the data. I just don't love taking it. But I do think that looking at the data is key.
It is key. And you want to see what is going on? Is the child only getting 30 to 50% corrects over like a 2-week period? That indicates that whatever you're doing right now is not working. So what we'll usually do is look at those trends. Look at those trends in the data. What is going on over multiple days and multiple sessions? What kind of prompts are being used? Maybe the prompts aren't being used effectively. If you have to continually prompt every single response, that's probably not an effective prompt. It needs to be easier for the child in some way or another. So when when you see slow progress, it definitely indicates that it's a more difficult skill, but it also may be too big of a step from the last skill, from the prerequisite skill that you taught. You don't want to go from teaching, one little tiny thing to teaching a whole spectrum of different things. You want to do it systematically and slowly. So if you go, if the child is making great progress over months or whatever, then all of a sudden you see it start to slow down. Look at the skills that are being taught and see if there are some skills in between that the child still needs. What is going on that is making the progress slow down? Are there other things in the environment that are happening? Has something changed?
Like the dog got sick, or grandma came to visit, or the friend moved away.
Exactly, anything. But slow progress indicates that something different is happening and that you need to change what you're currently doing.
Well, and what I love about this is that it reminds all of us that it's not that the child can't learn it. That's never, did you notice that that's never part of their assumption? That's BCBAs know differently. They completely get it. They know that that's not the case, so they're looking for other things. And I think for those of us who have seen progress happen, we make peace with that at some point. But if you're in the beginning, to realize you're going to see progress.
And also, you have to look at what skills are appropriate for that child too. If you are working on academic skills, but really the child needs to work on adaptive skills, that needs to be like a program change. And again, it's not like the child can't learn. The child can always learn. It's just the types of skills that you're teaching may need to be adjusted.
And the order in which you teach them. You've got to do prerequisites first, and sometimes do building blocks before you can get to the skill that you want to get to.
And if you want to teach your child even to brush his teeth in the morning, that involves so many small component skills, even fine motor skills that the child might not have yet. He may not be able to undo the cap of the toothpaste, or anything like that. You need to look at the smaller skills that make up the larger set of skills.
And that's where we really see that arc of ABA. It seems like you're moving at a snail's pace, but if you're making progress on those little things, you make leaps, which is really amazing. Angela, thank you so much for being with us today. We'll look forward to having you back next week. And if you guys have questions for Angela in the interim, please feel free to write them into us, and then we'll have them ready for her next week. And if you have something urgently that you want to know, then absolutely you can send that to us via email, and we'll make sure she gets it before that. But thank you so much for being with us. We are going to take another break and come back to finish out the show, so stick with us. You have the snappiest pants here at the tournament.
The thinking is if I look good, then I'll play good. It doesn't always work out that way, but at least I still look good.
You are now a huge advocate for autism. Is this overnight, or
No, I've done things with other charities that use this as their platform, and this just so happened. She had come and accosted me at the gym because we have the same trainer.
Yes, this is Nancy Allspot Jackson.
Yeah, she came by, and we had met before, and she had talked to me about doing something, and I just so happened to be available on the date, so of course I said yes.
Are you a good golfer, or it's all going to be the
day to day? I feel real good. I feel confident about my game today. I'm really serious when I'm on the golf course. I'm like Tiger. I'm not talking. I'm not goofing around, or maybe, I don't know.
But a wonderful opportunity to raise some money, especially for our military families today.
I had no idea the statistics. As I got here and I started looking at some of the information, I can't imagine even why that would be, but obviously it's very shocking. So anything that we can do to raise the awareness, to raise some money, and see what we can do to make this stop.
Joe's a very good friend. I've known Joe a long, long time, and he's a good man. And
he's a better man.
I'm just a little bit taller, that's all. I have my brother's military for 23 years, a Lieutenant Colonel U.S. Army, and I'm a big supporter of our military. And Gary Sinise, I've done some work with Gary through the years, and as far as autism goes, I've got a number of friends of mine whose children have autism. As far as the celebrities are concerned, we pay each other back. We show up when we can. We're not busy, and it's just here to support whatever causes they got going, because all the causes are good ones.
But what's really amazing, Shannon, is that last week, I think, there was a new hearing, and they won, so that now military families have no upper limit on their insurance coverage, as well as all the retired folks, our military folks, are now getting some coverage. But they're still having some problems with this, I heard, and they're beginning to fix the whole thing. But I'm hoping within the next few months we'll be able to provide a lot of services to our military families.
Well, I've tried to, do a little bit to support our military families, especially I do a site called lettersfromhollywood.army.mil, and it's something we set up with the Pentagon to try to support the troops and their families. And Joe Mantegna is one of the guys I really admire in Hollywood, just not because he's a great actor, but because he's spent so much time and effort supporting the plight of military families who have an autistic family member. So, Joe says, be here. This is not a conversation. Just tell me when and where. There's few and far between in Hollywood where you see somebody who's so selfless and just such a good guy and so concerned about everybody else's feelings. And, he's got a body of work where he could puff his chest out and walk around a lot more than he does. And, people just really respect him, I think.
You're doing the voice of Aang right now in The Legend of Korra, which a lot of us have children and is a very big deal. That's a big legacy that you've been handed, the voice of Aang. Were you familiar with the whole...
Airbenders? Yeah, absolutely. I have my son turned 11 yesterday, my daughter's 8. So, I think I've been in 70 movies and they could probably care less. But as soon as I told them I was going to be on The Legend of Korra, everything changed.
This is your second year. You were here last year.
I was here last year. It was a great event. Everyone's just having a really good time and doing whatever they can to bring some attention to this cause. Mm-hmm. It means a lot to me, and it's something that clearly they're making some strides in through all the attention, not just golf tournaments, but people taking an active involvement in pursuing what's really the cause of autism and the reasons with which some people deny it. That's something that needs to be continually pursued so we get to the bottom line and help people.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be here and to golf. Are you having a good time?
It's hard work, I tell you. But if this, in some way, my horrible golf swing helps the cause, I will be here every year.
Take off my hat. Go ahead. Because with my hat on, I look like Tom Cruise.
Well, you've been in every single movie, and
really?
every single TV show of all time.
I'll take your word for it.
Dating back to Saturday Night Fever. My goodness, you have a career.
My last job was Kojak, though. Do you realize?
Okay. That's not true
right.
at all.
No.
Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. It's a very important cause. It's touched my own family, and my cousin's very close to me. Her son, who looks a lot like me, and but he's handsome.
So I was going to say, he's in the family.
But he's severely autistic, and it's been a tough road. Plus, other friends of ours have 2 children who are one not too severe, and the other one very severely. So it's not an epidemic, but it certainly seems more, common, if you want to use the word, than before. Yeah,
it's something I've known about really for a long time. Since I was very young, I actually had a girlfriend when I was in college whose younger brother had autism. So I've been aware of it for a long time. That's when I first became aware of it. And then Joe Mantegna is a good friend of mine, and I know Joe has been very involved in it for a long, long time. And that's really what brought me out here today.
And when Joe says, come play golf, you come play golf,
I come play golf. That's wherever he says, that's where I go.
And are you a golfer? Is this something you enjoy doing?
Yes,
as well?
I do, yes, yeah.
And we've been talking to everybody this morning about the statistics for military families. Were you aware that it has been 1 in 88 for a long time for those military families?
I was not, no.
I think it's shocking to a lot of us, but this is a population that definitely needs and deserves our support for their kids.
Absolutely, and it's especially personal to me because I have a nephew who did 2 tours of duty in Iraq and was retired as a Marine captain in good health. So we're all, thankful for that.
Well, the important thing that I always want to remind myself and everybody is that a lot of money was raised on that day. I believe over $85,000, which will then be dispersed to families who are in the military who have children on the autism spectrum. So that's the most important thing to talk about. Having said that, how much fun did we have and how exciting was it for us to be able to talk to those celebrities, and how much I appreciated, and I'm sure you guys too, the fact that they came and, they teased. Jason Gedrick said, oh, it's really hard work, but if me being a golfer can help, I'm here. I'm here to do that. And we know that they had busy schedules, as do we all. And how excited was I? Yes, that was me with DB Sweeney. And yeah, sorry. I just get ridiculous. I'm like a 12-year-old. What can I say? And they were all incredibly good-looking men. Next year, I want to see more female golfers, though. So put the word out there. We need to have some female celebrities representing at this event, although, it really didn't harm that they were just all really good-looking men. It was okay. We suffered through it. In any case, we need to end the show, but as this show ends, the conversation continues. I hope that you guys will write in and share what's happening with you and the kinds of things that you would like to see here on the show. Emily's going to cycle through some of the ways that you can get a hold of us here. I want to remind you that tomorrow, we're back at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is our new schedule from 10 a.m. to noon every day, Monday through Friday, Pacific Standard Time. And at 11 o'clock tomorrow, we will still be joined by Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, who is he's such a joy. I thoroughly enjoy any time he's here. He's the Director of Research and Development at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. And he will be here answering your questions and my questions. Please participate through the night and ask the questions that you would like to be asked of Dr. Tarbox so that we'll have them ready for him tomorrow. And of course, tune in with us tomorrow for all the different things that we'll talk about. This journey is one that we can get through, that we can not only survive, we can thrive if we hold hands together, remind ourselves that the progress is available. Yep, sometimes it's hard won, but it's so worth it. Progress is the name of the game. It's attainable. We can do it if we just use the right tools, and we want to help you to get those tools. Make sure that you participate with us on Facebook. If you want one of those bedtime passes, shoot us an email or talk to us on Facebook. You can also tweet us to let us know, and especially if you'd like to participate in that ongoing protocol, that research study that they're doing about the bedtime pass, to have some support for free while you're doing it, let us know and we'll make sure that your information is forwarded. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.